guys, this is me, Malorian, and this is going to be an intro video for a tournament I'm going to go to in about 5 hours. And what this is a steamroller that's going to be in Calgary, so 3 hours south, not that bad. And, 50 points, all that normal stuff. However, one thing that will be different with this is that it's the last one in the Alberta War Machine Invitational series before you get to the last GrotchCon. You can still get into it through the last chance qualifier, but this is the last time to get regular points, is right now. Now, on that part there, I'm fine. I'm now in the AWI for sure, so I don't really care about getting points. Points are still kind of nice because, like first goes up against 16th and stuff like that. So the further up I go, theoretically, I go up against an easier opponent, but in the end, you got to beat everyone anyway if you want to get to the top. So that part to me isn't that big of a deal, so I'm going to relax a bit. Now, going into this, there's also going to be an interesting twist in that they're also running the ADR rules. Now, if you don't know what those are, they come from the Masters package, and basically, back in the good old days where Masters were 3 lists, they don't do that anymore. Now they have a list of 4 characters, 4 casters rather, and if you take your 2 casters from there, you get a 20-point sideboard. Now, I told you this is Steamroller, and so officially this isn't supposed to go over there, but it is something fun, something different. Especially some of the more international players that want to go around, want to practice this, because there's not really a lot of times to actually practice for Masters. And so, I run a Masters. There'll be a Masters at... Is there going to be a GrotchCon? No, there'll be an Iron Gauntlet there. But at Attack X, there'll be one there. People will go to the stage to lock and load and stuff like that. So anyway, people want to practice their ADR. So looking at that and looking at the possible casters, if I was smart, I would have actually brought up the full list of which ones are here. So just wait a second while I go to Masters 2016 War Machine. Wow, this is so master of none. Wow, why did that auto-populate? This is so bad. Oh, my numlock's on. This is such bad video right now. Alright, I'm trying to tell you which ones are on the list, and again, if I was smart, I would have had them up here. But okay, here's the one. So again, I don't have to go with Mercenaries. I could be going with my Cygnar. Cygnar has a great ADR list. We have Striker 2, which is amazing. I love Striker 2. There's Kane 2. Kane 2 is amazing. That's a great one to have on there. There's Haley 1, who's amazing. And then Nemo 3, who's good. I don't have a lot of practice with Nemo 3, but I know the people who are well with practice with Nemo 3 are extremely deadly with him. So I could go with Cygnar, but one of the things that's kind of like leading my hand is that there's people that want to see my Buccaneers, There's people who got to hear all about the Buccaneers, but when it came up to the time where I get to play against them, especially if they're in different cities like this, I didn't actually bring them down. So I had a special request saying, come on, Malorian, just bring down your Buccaneers. And so that means we're kind of more forced into Menoth. Or not Menoth, Mercs. Jeez, it is 1 in the morning, guys, just to kind of excuse myself. But, as you've seen, I have done Buccaneers in Cygnar, and so I was thinking if I should do like my Kane 2 Buccaneers or a Striker 2 Buccaneers type thing. I don't know, something silly. But in the end, I thought, you know what? There's some new models I want to also try out for myself. Now that Mobius is out, I want to try him out. I've never tried out my Bloat Thralls. I also finished painting up all my Cutthroat specifically to be running with Texas, so it seems like that would be a really good idea. And while I'm doing that, well, clearly that's not Buccaneers, so I need a list to be running Buccaneers. And one of the other models that I painted up and I still haven't used is my River Raiders. And so I looked at the 4-star options for running actually the River Raiders, and I could actually be doing it with Magnus and be having that in there, but I also want to try something a little bit different, and so I decided to actually go with my Fiona. So I'm going to go with the Fiona list, a little bit different, and another thing that's in there as well too is I also painted up the deck gun. Now here's a big part with this. Fiona's not bad. She has 7 focus, so she could run 7 Buccaneers, but at the same time, I want to do more. And she has a very cool thing with Cultists, where if you take Cultists, which is more taking a Sea Dog unit, you can make one Cultist, they become fearless, and if they're within an inch of her during your maintenance, control phase, then she gets an extra focus. So she's basically focus 8, except, on tests and stuff, she'll be based off of 7, and so all of a sudden she can run 8 Buccaneers. So that should be pretty interesting. Again, I could be doing this with Magnus and being like, wow, lots of running, but at that point, I think the River Raiders would be kind of just not really doing anything. This way here, it'll be kind of a two-stage approach. So while I'm saying that, now that I've kind of led to my decision where I went to with Thexus because I want to run the Bloat Thralls and the Cutthroats, and I'll get into a little bit of why in a second, and then the second one being Fiona, let's actually cover the list. So the base list, as they kind of are, is on the Thexus side, I have Thexus, out of tier, who is running a Wrecker, a Warden. There is the Max Cutthroats with the Dominator attached. There's 2 Agitators, 2 units of the Max Mind Benders, a min unit of the Mind Slavers, and then I also have the Overlords, 2 Bile Thralls, and then as well on top of that, I also have Mobius. So lots and lots of like range threat. So first of all, the part about the Cutthroats. Cutthroats are one of the first units I bought, and I thought they're really cool, but I never really used them, because once you start looking at things like, wow, they're so cool because they got stealth, and they got poison, and they got backstab, and all this stuff, you start realizing that they're also rat 5, and poison doesn't always do stuff, and backstab doesn't always do stuff, so it's kind of like, I don't know. So they kind of fell out of favor. However, when you're going into Thexus and he can go and he can TK you around, well, not only am I automatically then giving my Cutthroats the backstab bonus, which is an extra dice if you're shooting them in their back arc, so that means if I'm shooting a living target, I'm going to be getting 4 dice of damage, which is pretty good. As well, since I've turned them around with that TK, they're also going to be effectively 2 less defense. These guys are effectively rat 7, and that's pretty good. So I'm liking that. As well, of course, with all the TKs and the feet and stuff, it's really easy to set things up for Mobius and the Bloat Thralls and the sprays and blah, 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 blah. So this one here will mainly be a more ranged list. Definitely has some serious assassination threats going on, but then again, I still have a Wrecker and the Warden, so I can do some okay damage as well in melee. Now again, remember this is ADR, and because I took 2 casters from this list here, which I didn't go through and say which ones are even on here on the list, I'm tired. So here's who's on the list. We have Captain Bartolo Montador, we have Thexus, we have Durgan, and we have Fiona. So there's another reason not to run Magnus 1, is because he's not even on the list. But yeah, so that's why I'm going with Thexus and Fiona. Anyway, so in this here, I have a sideboard of 20 points that I get to play around with. And so with that, what I decided to take was, first of all, what happens if I don't think this is a good matchup for the Cutthroats? Maybe they're not really living, maybe they have a good out for stealth and just going to kill these guys, who knows what it is. But if I feel that the Cutthroats aren't good enough, my first part of the ADR is the Nis Hunters. That's a 10 points for 10 points going across, very simple, and hey, still goes with a range game, but then this just kind of works on everything, and sure, why not? Another thing to think about the Nis Hunters as well is that since this is out of tier, anything that's dominated will automatically be AD, so those Nis Hunters will have advanced deploy, which is pretty cool. Now, the other part here you can see as well is I'm going with more of a range list, like I said. So what happens if I run into something that's a little bit more melee based, that I feel I need a little bit more punch against? Well, the next thing I took was Forge Guard. And so that way I can always dominate the Forge Guard. I can help protect them with my deceleration to keep them alive, plus they're tough. And so I can get them up the board, plus they have AD, and then they can really get in there. And I also kind of fix their speed because of how the feet pulls things towards them. And so again, that's a pretty easy across. However, with that, I'd still have 2 more points. So with my last 2 points of the 20 points ADR sideboard, I also went with a third agitator, because third agitators are never bad. Another thing I can do there too with the 2-point agitator is if I ever feel like the bloat thralls are really overkill and I really don't need to have that, I can always swap one of them out to put in the agitator. So that's another little thing I can be doing as well. I'm sure there's other stuff I could try changing in there, but those are my planned switches with that. Again, whenever you're going to the Masters, well, or Steamrollers that are using ADR, that's a new layer of how you design your list that you have to keep in mind. And again, this is why people like practicing it. I'm not a fan of just throwing in ADR all the time, but now and then it's a great time to just freshen things up and also just be able to have that real practice if you're actually going to the Masters. There are some negatives to it, and I'll get to that in a second, but let's get to my second list. So the second list is going to be that Fiona list, and it's going to be starting off with 8 Buccaneers, because Buccaneers are awesome. We are going to be having 2 units of the Press Gangers. I'm going to have 3 units, 3 groups of the River Raiders. Again, for 2 points, you get 3 models. They're all solos, and so really for 6 points, I'm going to have 9 solos that are going to AD, and there'll be lots of AD in this list, and run up and do things. Otherwise, I'm also having Kayazi with Underboss. And then I also have, of course, the deck gun, like I said, to get another focus, and it can also shoot. And then as well, there is also Hawk in there to kind of make things a little bit more dangerous for the press gangers. They can do a little bit more punch, because really in that base list there isn't very much it can really do for punch. That's a big reason why I need at least those Kayazis in there, because if I don't get up there and I don't jam far enough out, because again, this is pretty obvious. Well, I'm not going to say obvious, because this list can win in 2 different ways. Whereas the other one's clearly a ranged attrition list, a ranged assassination list. This one here is more of a jam scenario list, because again, if you don't know, the feat for Fiona is that if you are in her control, you are -1 dice for damage and to hit. So it really makes it hard to do anything against me, so I can just run things into your face, and it is damn hard to do anything. So anyway, this is really about getting into your face, and then if you have something I need to get out of zones, I can be using the Buccaneers to slam things out if I need to. I can be using the Kayazi to charge in and try and do some damage. And then, I mean, you have Fiona that can do a little bit of work herself. And again, that's why it's kind of important to also have Hawk and have the Press Gangers with Hawk, because then if they're around her, they get Weapon Master. If they're up against living warrior models, again, that thing is a little bit more, maybe, but it's a little bit more punch. Now, this is where we get to the ADR for this, which is almost the same thing as the Forge Guard on the other side. If I feel that I really need to get something really strong in there, what I have in my sideboard is pretty simple. I have my Galleon, and then because that's 18 points and I just have 2 left for my 20-point sideboard, my second one is I just went for a solo, and I went for Orin Midwinter. So with that then, I am going to be, and by the way, yeah, this is a 4-star, so that's why you see Orin here. But yeah, so if I ever need to, and I need to get some more punch, I can just drop out 6 of the Buccaneers, put in the big old Galleon, and then the other, of course, easy swap is going to be Orin Midwinter. Normally for Hawk, that's going to be the across, but then again, if I do put in the Galleon, I don't need that extra focus anymore, so it is also possible that I'll put in Orin instead of the deck gun. So that's another possible thing I can do if I really feel that I need to shut down some magic or something like that. He's a great piece to put in there, and of course with Fiona's feet, it's really hard to kill him. So that's that one. Again, it's more about getting in there and going for scenario, but at the same time, Fiona, especially when she has extra focus like that, is also fairly good at magical assassinations. So she can go and make any one model she wants a arc node, which is pretty awesome. And then it just runs somewhere, and she just goes spell, 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 and can really try neither attrition. You know, she can always be doing that to kill off some support pieces or whatever she needs to scalpel out. And then as well, she can be doing that against the caster. So I'm guessing in this list here, it's either going to be on Hawk or just Joe Blow Kayazi. We'll have to kind of see how it goes with that, but Hawk is probably the best one for it. But yeah, another spell looking out there too is one where I'll let Galleon just see through everything, so that can kind of add a little bit of a range assassination in there. But yeah, either way, it should be an interesting list. So what you're kind of seeing from this is that it's two lists that I have never played before. I have never played the range Thexus list before. I have never run this Buccaneer Super ADR Fiona stuff before. So it's going to be kind of new, but I don't care. I want to get in there. I want to have fun. My goal for this, so you'll notice a big difference between this and my last intro video, where last time I was like, I gotta go 3-1 or maybe even 4-0. I got. There's so much pressure. This one here is really, you know what? If I go 2-2, that's great. And even if I go like 1-2, if I get to play each of these lists twice, the experience I get from trying out these new things is gonna be more important than a higher ranking placing. I really don't care. You know, it would be a little bit embarrassing to go 0-4, so I would at least win one game. I'm guessing I'm gonna go about 2-2, but yeah, I think it's a stretch to think I'm taking these two random lists and I'm going to go 3-1, and there's no way in hell I'm going 4-1, so, or 4-0 rather. So that's kind of where I'm aiming to go at, and again, I'm just looking to have some fun. Now, the place I'm going to is a Sentry Box. Amazing place. I have an $80 gift card from a previous time that I can't wait to go there and spend, so that's going to be awesome. But I told you I was going to talk about the negative of the ADR. Now, while I say this, I have played in ADR tournaments before, and there was no ADR. The reason for that is because at those times, the ADR system was the last one, where they basically took the 4 most uncommon casters, and nobody really felt it was worth it. Sometimes it is joking around, but if you had a group of 30 people, 1 or 2 of them would be going ADR. With this season, they basically said, okay, let's take your list of casters, take out the very best, and then we'll take the next 4. So, since I think what Privateer Press did is that since they thought that nobody's taking the 4 most unpopular casters, why don't we go for taking out the top and then going for the next second tier level or something. So that's why even these ones that I said that are amazing, I mean, coming to Signar, those are all great casters. I mean, I can even say that Kane 2 is up there, but you'll see things like Haley 2 is not in there. Siege is also very popular. Maybe Haley 3 now there as well. So that's kind of not there, and this is the next level. Mercs, I mean, God knows what goes. I know Mercs, a lot of people like Osram, so he's not on there, but maybe that one's a little bit more difficult. But there's some other ones on here that are kind of nuts. And when you get these good casters that you can then tweak however you want, it kind of gets really crazy. Like, I talked about how that's really good with Kane 2. You can go and change up whatever solos you need to pull off the assassination. You can choose to go with 1 Stormwall, 2 Stormwall when you're doing things like Haley. But one of the ones I know I'm going to be seeing lots of is that not only is Legion popular around here, but the Legion 4 is amazing. So what you have here is Rias, which is like, okay, that one's, well, we'll move on. There's also Vale 1, who is great. We have Epic Lilith, and then we also have Abby 2, Epic Abyssalonia. Now, again, out of the 4, I'd say Rias is kind of like your, like the ginger of the group. But I guess still, I mean, if you take this type of caster and get to switch in whatever pieces you want, you can make your work a lot better. But to be serious, we're not going to be seeing her. We're going to be seeing Vale 1, Lilith 2, for sure, and it'll be Lilith 2 for sure, and then either Veil 1 or Epic Abby. Now, for the Lilith 2, man, I mean, she is all about the super alpha and assassination, and when you're getting to pick how many Ravagors you're wanting to have and how much support troops and stuff, yeah, I mean, just think, you can just swap out and say, you know what? I really need this assassination to work, so I'm going to go for 5 Ravagors. Yeah, let's do this. And then other times, say like, no, that's too much. Let's pull out 2 of those Ravagors. I'll go 3, and I'll put in whatever else I need. Maybe some Angels, maybe some Striders, whatever else I can fill in there. Another popular one will be the Blightbringer, that I can just be swapping in and out however I want. I really don't think anyone's going to go to 5 Ravagors. That's pretty intense and extreme, but you get my drift. You can really set this up to be very strong for that assassination or anywhere in between. As well with Epic Abby, maybe that one's not as huge, but again, the whole idea of like, okay, I always want like, well, man, there's lots of builds for Epic Abby, but again, it's things like, do I really need much of this punch? Do I want a little more shooting? Do I need more rakes in there? There's a lot of different ways you can play with that to make it perfect for your situation. And same thing with Veil. You can run Veil in a lot of different ways, and this just lets you tailor it to whatever you want to see. So going into this, one of my biggest worries, and especially because one of the guys that really wants to play ADR is going to be playing Legion, I know I'm going to be seeing this all over the place. I don't know what else I'm going to really see. We're going to have to kind of go with that. I'm sure Crix will be scary as well. There are ones there as Epic Scar, Denegra 3, Goreshade 3, and then also Mortenebra. So I'm guessing there we're going to see a lot of Denny 3, and then probably Goreshade 3. But either way, Crix is always scary, and we get to switch things up. But either way, I'm just looking to have fun. I have my worries that sometimes when I go into a tournament to have fun, I just get myself destroyed and then I don't have fun. So I'm hoping it's not one of those. I mean, I'm hoping, I'm not, okay, I know that in at least one of my games, I'm going to run into that and they're just going to go and smack me aside. But hey, you know, for the rest, I'm really feeling I can make an okay fight and make some pretty good battle reports. So either way, there you go. This is a lot longer one than other intro videos. But yeah, please down below, you can go and comment on your thoughts on my lists, my thoughts on how your thoughts on how you think I'm going to do, and then any thoughts you have on the ADR as well. Because sure, why not? So there you go, guys. There'll be 4 more battle reports coming up from this. There's so many battle reports coming up lately, and we'll see how we do. And yeah, now, God, I need some sleep. So good night, guys, and we'll see you later. Bye.